Hey guys, welcome to lesson number 3. Now we have our main spline here on Cinema 4D. This is the base of everything that we're going to do. Now, you may be thinking, how do we get from this spline to something like this? This has volume. This has a very nice shape here with the text. So how do we get there? And it's actually quite simple to do that on Cinema 4D. Let's go to our software, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to sort of dress this spline with a shape. Let me explain a little bit more. We're going to use a shape, and we're going to make that shape follow this path all the way to the main part of the text. And for that, we're going to use a capsule and a deformer. So let's bring first a shape called the capsule, and don't worry right now about the size of this capsule, because all we're going to use is the shape to address this little text. Now, with the capsule selected, we're going to select a deformer called Spline Wrap, because that's what we're going to use. We're going to wrap this capsule into the entire spline. Now we have the spline wrap here on the objects panel. Now drop this spline wrap into the capsule so that this spline wrap becomes a child of this object. You can see that it's now covering all the capsule. Now for the spline wrap to work, we need to select a spline here on the object. You can see that if you select on the spline wrap, it has a lot of properties here, and on object properties you can see that we have the spline. So of course we need to tell this object what spline is going to use to create the wrap. Now of course we have only one spline, which is the main jelly text spline. So with this selected, just drop this jelly text spline here on the spline panel. When you do that, you're going to get this. Don't worry about it. It looks really crazy right now, but what it's doing is it's wrapping the entire spline with that capsule that we just created. Now first, change the axis to the y axis. Now it's time to play with the size of the capsule so that it works good. So select the spline, the capsule, and let's change the radius so that it's thinner. Let's set it to, we can set it to 9. We can decrease the height to, let's see, 85, so that it covers more ground of the spline. And we can increase this to 50. The height segments, you can see that the more height segments that we have, the more we are covering the jelly text. Now if we go all the way completely and add a lot of segments, what it's going to do is that it's going to take much longer to render, because you can see that it's creating more segments. So it's going to take a lot longer to render all these segments. So we don't need to do this, because we have a very nice tool called the Subdivision Surface, that what it does is that it subdivides the entire object so that it looks smoother. So let's create a subdivision surface here, and just drop the capsule into that subdivision surface. And now you can see that the text is much smoother. Now you can turn this off for now, and you can see the difference. And we can work this way, and then we turn on the subdivision surface, because that's the great thing about subdivision surface, that you can turn it off and on whenever you want to see how it changes, and you can continue to use the capsule as it is originally. Because if we added some more height segments, then we were going to take longer to render. So that this way is much easier. Now let's open again the Spline Wrap, and on end mode, instead of extend, let's select clamp so that it doesn't go any farther away from the spline. So you can see that using Spline Wrap is really cool, and it has a lot of things, a lot of more things. For example, you can change the size for the spline. If you decrease this, you can see that one side is thinner than the other. Maybe you want to create a curve here like this. You can create a lot of things with this Spline Wrap. So I'm going to leave it as it was originally because I think it works fine this way. But you can play around with the Spline Wrap. It's a really cool tool that Cinema 4D has. And you can do this with any spline that you have if you want to use it for example, with built-in splines that Cinema 4D has. You can see we have right now this spiral, and if we add the capsule, instead of using this jelly text spline as the spline, we use the helix. You can see that we have this nice shape. So you can create a lot of nice things with this Spline Wrap. So have fun using it. And let's leave it this way right now. Let's actually leave it like this, up to the front. Okay, now we have the spline. It's looking really cool. And now it's time to create the jiggly effect that it's actually what we want to create some more. So let's check this spline. You can see that it looks fine here with the depth that we gave, but here we have a little problem because they are melting together, these shapes, and this here just a little bit too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the spline a little bit. I'm going to turn off everything and keep with the spline, and I'm going to take this a little more to the back and this one too. Now I can turn everything on and see how it looks. The E looks fine. This should be more to the back too. Let's see how it looks. Okay, now this is perfect. So if you have that problem too, just check your splines and make sure that they all look good. Okay, we're done with the spline wrapping here for this lesson. Now it's time to create the jiggly effect. So let's go to the next one.